Domain expansions are essentially the ace of any Jujutsu sorcerer. That is, if they have one. This technique merges one's innate domain with cursed energy, creating a barrier within a separate space, and once established, the user infuses their cursed technique, combining it with the domain. Now, every domain is used either as a final strike, a game changer, or a counter to an established domain, making them the most pivotal aspect of Jujutsu battles. And while inside of the domain, a sorcerer's abilities are maxed out to their highest potential and effectiveness, guaranteeing a hit against anyone inside of one. And to activate, a sorcerer has to use hand signs that are exclusive to them only. However, an innate domain is considered one of the highest forms of Jujutsu sorcery, as it requires a ton of cursed energy to even manifest one, which is why not everyone has one, from Jujutsu sorcerers like Hanami and Inumaki. However, aside from high-level sorcerers like Geto, Gojo, and Yorozu, there are some cursed spirits that can manifest domains as well, like Mahito, Dagon, and Jogo, as we've already seen in the anime. Now, in the manga, we've already been introduced to the concept of non-lethal domains, which are the complete opposite of the lethal short domains that we've come to know so far. So in this video, we'll be clarifying and helping you understand this concept better, so let's go ahead and break them down, starting with lethal domains. Lethal domains are basically the magnum opus of cursed techniques. These spaces are arenas infused with their cursed technique, making any attack that they use inside of it guaranteed to hit the target. However, as stated earlier, creating a domain isn't the easiest thing to do. The cursed energy required and skill needed to even manifest a basic one could put any sorcerer's cursed energy reserve in the red. Since aside from the cursed energy needed to manifest the domain, a continuous output of cursed energy is still needed to maintain one. Which is why after casting their domain, most sorcerers become a danger to themselves as they don't have any cursed energy for their techniques, which might leave them vulnerable to subsequent attacks. However, the cool thing is that in the manga through chapter 164, it's revealed that short domains are a development of modern sorcery, and the reason why they require more cursed energy to manifest, and that non-lethal domains were more prevalent in the past compared to the present day. Now, non-lethal domains are essentially the same as lethal ones, except the only purpose of such is to confine both you and an opponent into a space that allows you to fight on equal footing, rather than an all-out brawl with everything at your disposal. Now, some of the non-lethal domains we know of are Higuruma's death sentencing and Hakari's pure love train. Granted, these do have sure hit effects, but in the case of Higuruma, his sure hit is the sentence delivered after trial, and for Hakari, it's the transmission of the convoluted rules on how to play the domain. However, there are some cases of a non-lethal domain like the culling game's Rokujushi Mio, the Kappa-sumo wrestler whose domain's only purpose is to create a confined space for him and his opponent to sumo endlessly. Now moving on to incomplete domains, as their name suggests, are domains but not quite there yet. Incomplete domains are innate domains that don't have an embedded curse technique, due to which they can't manifest the sure hit effect of lethal domains and don't have the binding effect from non-lethal domains either. However, what the user does get from an incomplete domain is the stat boost that every user gets when manifesting their own domain expansion technique, meaning that they get stronger, faster, and can perform better within their incomplete domain. As far as we know in the anime and the manga, only Megumi can manifest a domain like this, mostly due to his inability to conjure an actual domain. But there are some technicalities to this, as he was able to manifest an enclosed domain like in his fight in the culling games against Registar, where he used the ability to complete his domain expansion, albeit without the sure hit effect. So essentially, you can create a domain, but if you want a genuine one with either a non-lethal or lethal effect, you'll need to imbue your innate domain with the cursed technique for it to fully manifest. So as we said earlier, domain expansions are super high-level techniques, and since they require insane amounts of skill and cursed energy to even conjure one, it's safe to say that you've got to make it count while it's active. Because after use, the user's curse technique will become unstable and can even burn themselves out if they're not careful. Kind of like this world's version of a Kaioken. Of course, there are some characters that can spam their domains like Gojo just because he can with all his curse energy efficiency, and Hakari with his insane amounts of luck with his pure love train. Now, just like any game, domain expansions aren't broken at all if you know how to deal with them. Now, in non-lethal domains like Higuruma and Hakari's, you just need to know the rules of their domain in order to retaliate effectively. It's in lethal domains where it gets tricky, mostly due to the sure hit effect, so let's go ahead and talk about them. First up is the simplest one, which is reinforcing your body with cursed energy. But all you'd be doing is mitigating the damage of a maxed out technique, which is kind of like trying to pad yourself with pillows while waiting to get run over. Super practical. Second is to manifest a simple domain or an anti-domain, which allows the user to manifest their own space within the domain to negate the sure hit effect. However, since most domain expansions are most likely refined, using a simple domain only buys the user time to avoid the hit rather than negating the domain entirely. The third option is to simply destroy it from the outside, as the barrier is most likely enforced from the inside, making it vulnerable to break if you have some party members to help deal with it. And finally, the best way to counter a domain is with one of your own. When a domain is manifested, if the opponent can also conjure one, they can do so in order to neutralize the sure hit effect. Although it's important to note that in cases where one domain is more refined than the other, then that one will succeed. The domains will then cancel each other out, and when two domains are evenly matched with one another, then the first one to break receives a sure hit attack. But it's important to note that not all clashes do have to end with one getting hit, but rather can end with the more refined domain breaking a hole through the contested one, allowing one to escape. Three-way domain clashes can also happen, but are extremely rare, like in the case of Yuta's fight in the Culling Games, which didn't really last that long. But all in all, clashes do seem like the best way to contest a domain expansion so far. But before we finish up, I want to talk about the domain expansions we currently know and share our thoughts on them. First up, we have Yuki Tsukumo's enigmatic Unseen domain. Although unseen in the series, its reputation was enough to concern even Kenjaku. Yuki possessed the unique ability to manipulate mass, hinting at its formidable potential. Next up, we have Dagon's Tranquil Haven, known as the Horizon of the Captivating Skanda. Initially used as refuge for our antagonists, Dagon's serene beach-themed domain conceals hidden Shikigamis, delivering deadly sure-hit attacks. Right after that, we have Yorozu's Threefold Affliction. Yorozu's ability to construct objects, especially insect-themed armor and weapons, extends into her domain, and once inside, her attacks unfailingly strike her adversaries. Now moving on to one of my personal favorites, we have Hiromi Higuruma's Judicial Purgatory, Deadly Sentencing. This domain resembles a courtroom where occupants face unpredictable trials with potentially severe consequences. Now aside from Higuruma, another cool domain expansion has to be Naoya Zenin's Time Cell Moon Palace. Naoya's domain imposes a strict frame rate on occupants, demanding precise movements. Failure results in brutal attacks, making it a formidable domain expansion. Too bad it didn't really last that long in the Culling Games. And then we have something called the Smallpox Deity's Graveyard Domain. Summoned by Kenjaku, this domain ensures an automatic hit for the user, potentially leading to infection with smallpox, which is a deadly outcome. That is, unless you're vaccinated. Now moving on to one of our protagonist's domain expansions, we have Megami Fushiguro's Incomplete Chimera Shadow Garden. Despite being incomplete, this domain showcases Megami's potential to summon Shikigamis from fluid shadows. We then have Jogo's Volcanic Fury, which has one of the coolest names, called the Coffin of the Iron Curtain. Although that's where it ends for the cool factor, since all it does is summon a colossal volcano, and against Gojo really didn't last that long. Of course, we could never forget the fan favorite Kenji Hakari's Perpetual Jackpot Idle Death Gamble. This pachinko-themed domain grants Hakari 9 infinite cursed energy upon hitting the jackpot, rendering him nearly invincible, that is until his luck strikes out. Up next, we've got Mahito's Soul Manipulation, the self-embodiment of perfection. Even before expansion, Mahito's touch is already a one-hit knockout, making this domain particularly powerful. Moving on to an even bigger bad, we've got Kenjaku's Devastating Womb, also known as Womb Profusion. Its sure-hit effect strikes with the full force of Kenjaku's most potent curse Uzumaki, promising untold power. Now the king of curses, Sukuna's Relentless Fury, the Malevolent Shrine. Now at this point, I think we already know that this domain expansion is unrivaled, as it's absolutely insane and just overwhelms anyone who's unlucky to be caught inside of it. And of course, who wouldn't forget Gojo Satoru's Boundless Abyss, the Unlimited Void. With near-infinite cursed energy and space manipulation, Gojo's domain expansion paralyzes opponents, establishing him as the strongest in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. So that's gonna be it for our video on domain expansions. If you like this video, be sure to tell us in the comments below what your favorite domain expansions are, and if you have any ideas on what anime or topic we should cover next, then be sure to let us know. Again, thank you so much for watching, and for more anime content just like this and right for the picking, stick with Anime Mango.